started that day of shooting by just walking around the sky tree where I was staying, and I was lucky with the sunrise because the light was just perfectly golden and warm, so I took advantage of that. Then I had a good and quite substantial breakfast before taking the train to go to Shibamata, where I plan to shoot for the whole morning. And this is a good segue for me to explain how I managed my travel this time, how I scheduled my shootings. And yeah, I just wanted to keep everything quite loose. Basically, I selected 2 areas where I wanted to shoot, one for the morning and one for the afternoon/evening, not too far from each other, so it's quite easy to move from one to another. I was pretty flexible in terms of what to shoot, for how long in these areas. My goal for that travel was just enjoying myself and having a little bit of planning in terms of location, but not really looking for a particular subject, not really working on a particular project. So just walking around, enjoying myself, taking pictures of whatever triggered me. I think it's very good to have a particular project you can work on, but even when you take it more loosely, which I did this time, it's good to have a little bit of structure in terms of location, and whether you plan to shoot exclusively in the morning or more focused in the morning and then take it more laid back in the afternoon if you want to do a little bit more tourism, things like that. But having a little bit of structure is very good. So it's that time of the year when all the tech companies are releasing their new piece of technology, their latest smartphone. We've seen the new iPhone 15, that other thing from Oppo or I don't know, OnePlus, the flip kind of smartphone with crazy cameras. And yeah, that's the perfect time when this question about whether the cameras like the Ricoh GR3 or any APS-C or Micro Four Third sensor cameras are really relevant against the new latest smartphones. And first off, to me, a picture you can get with a Ricoh GR3 as of today is still much better than anything an iPhone 15 can do. We see all this comparison between the iPhone and even full frame cameras, and sometimes it's very close, like I'm not gonna lie, but they are taken in the scenarios where the iPhone is actually shining, like maybe bright sunlight, this kind of environment. But as long as you have less light, for example, it's starting to fall apart. The whole technology to make these HDR shots or the fake bokeh are getting better and better, but still sometimes they look a little bit weird. So for me, there's no question that as of today, real cameras are still better than smartphones. And actually I have an interesting anecdote. Whenever I shoot with my Ricoh or even my full frame setup, when I review my photos, whether it's on the screen or in the VF, I always find that the pictures doesn't look that great, but when I upload them on the computer, you can see all the resolution and everything, and like you realize how good of cameras they are. But when it comes to shooting with smartphone, which I did recently because I was traveling with my dad and I didn't want to be bothered too much about the camera setup, so I did shoot a lot with my iPhone in RAW format. And when I review the shots on screen, they look amazing, and you give them a little bit of edit on the Lightroom app, for example, and they look very good on the screen. You can post on social, so as long as it stays on the iPhone screen, like, they look very good. That's for sure. But whenever I upload them on a bigger screen, whenever I watch them on my computer, you start to see the image falling apart. So I think it's easy to be fooled by how good smartphones they are when you review the photos on the screen of the smartphone. But whenever you blow them out a little bit on a bigger screen, you can start to see the difference. So that's one thing for the actual state of things. But I'm sure that in the future, in maybe 5 years or even earlier than that. A smartphone will even be closer to what you can get with a APS-C camera, even with full-frame cameras. I have no doubt about it. So the question of whether real cameras will still be relevant will be even more debated, I guess. But for me, it's different. Like when shooting with a smartphone, of course you can get, as of today, really good images, in the future even better images, but the experience of shooting with smartphone is just not good. Like when I was shooting with my phone the past week, it was exciting to me, but the excitement came from the novelty of it. I was not really shooting with smartphone before. I knew I could take good pictures, but I never took it very seriously. So I had a great time, but more so because of I was excited of just messing with the settings and seeing the images I could get with my phone. But when it comes to the experience of shooting, it's really not pleasing, like having a shutter button on the screen where you have absolutely no physical feedback. Having to tap the screen and go up or down to move your exposure compensation is also not a very pleasant experience. And then of course when it comes to more tricky shooting scenarios, you have those night mode and stuff like this, but it's very non-customizable, like you have no full control on the settings. So yeah, for me, regardless of how good the smartphone cameras will be, you will never have the same experience as shooting with a proper camera. Like the tactile experience, having the camera in your hand, pressing on the shutter, moving the different wheels and everything. Also the sound, the shutter sound, you will never have something similar on the smartphone cameras. So for me, smartphones will never really replace real cameras, because for the ones who really like photography, it's more about the experience. Of course we want image with good quality, resolution, plenty sharpness and all that, but it's more for the time you spend outside shooting, looking at the environment, touching your camera, feeling the shutter sound and everything. So the answer to that question is something pretty obvious to me. But for the ones who are really looking for something convenient to get good image quality and also good at video, smartphones are good now and they will be even better in the future, and there's no issue with that, I think. But for the ones really enjoying the process and holding your camera and everything, cameras will still be the way to go. I spent the afternoon and the early evening around Ginza, and I liked shooting there. It was my first time discovering that area of Tokyo. But I want to talk about something regarding the Ricoh GR3, and that is the crop mode. In my long-term review video, I was saying that I was not really using the crop mode, sometimes in the 35mm crop, but I didn't see the point of using the 50mm crop. And I have to say that my mind changed a little bit. I took a few shots at the 50mm crop and also at the 35, and I have to say that the 50mm crop is still pretty good. You will definitely not get any bokeh or things like that because you are cropping so much from an actually 18 or 19mm lens, so no way you're gonna get a very cinematic bokeh 50mm kind of shot. But after uploading the file on my computer, I was pretty surprised by how good the file was holding up. It was during the night, so my ISO was quite high, and regardless of the ISO noise, I think the file was pretty clean. But now you may be wondering what's the point point of shooting in those crop mode, given that you cannot revert back to the original 28mm focal length equivalent. Why not just shooting all the time at 28mm and then cropping in post, which is probably the smartest way to do it, because you have the full flexibility of how you want to use the file, whether in a full 28mm or cropped at 35 or 50mm. But the real benefit of shooting in crop mode in camera is to have a feedback on the screen of what 35 or what 50 looks like. But because of the few shots I got at 50mm, when I was on the field trying, I could see that if I didn't activate the crop mode, I was guessing what 50mm was, and I was composing differently. And when I activated the 50mm crop, I realized that what I envisioned in my mind was a bit different, and to really get what I wanted, I needed to position myself or the camera a little bit differently. So definitely, if I just used the no crop mode and thought about cropping in post, I would have a different composition, and in the end naturally the results I wanted for that 50mm equivalent field of view. Maybe some of you are a very experienced photographer, can have a very good estimate, a very good guess in their head of what a 35mm 50mm crop would look like while still being on this 28mm normal field of view, but I am not really able to do it, and using the crop mode really helped me to get closer and to get actually the composition I wanted at those focal lengths at 35 and 50. So yes, you have to sacrifice the possibility to get back to the full field of view, to the full 28mm, but in the end I got better compositions using the crop mode, so I think it's still very valuable to use it, and I would encourage you to try it. That's gonna be it for today's video. Thanks in advance for all the likes and comments. I'm looking forward to read them, and yeah, let's catch up in the next one. Bye.